Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to do a property analysis of a Linden, Johannesburg property. This couple bought this property a few years ago and lived in it for a while, and then bought a different primary residence and decided to rent out this property after moving out. They approached me to ask if the property is worth keeping as a rental property or if it would be better to sell and invest the difference. They get 14,000 rental income per month. The monthly cost is 4,500 Rand. The 4,500 Rand is broken up as follows: rates and taxes at 1,800 Rand and levies at 2,700 Rand. The total cost, including the bond currently, is 21,762. They are running at a 7,762,000 deficit every month. But this is not the whole picture. Let's analyze this case study. Let's look at the main assumptions. The property value is currently 2.15 million. The loan amount outstanding, 1.992 million. Interest rate, as listed there, 9.25%. Amortization period, in other words, how many months they have left on their bond, is 287. Please note this couple took out a 30-year bond and there's 287 months remaining. The begin date will be 1 January. In other words, the analysis is based on 1 January. Rental income, 14,000 a month, as mentioned before, and rates, taxes, and levies, 4,500 Rand a month. Let's look at the further assumptions. The rental increase per annum we will use will be 4.2%. I'll show you how I got to that. Levies, rates, and tax, insurance increase per annum, 6% per annum. That means inflationary increase. And then tax rate on rental income, 0%. There will definitely be a rental income tax on this property. However, in this case, I'm going to use 0% just to give the property benefit of the doubt. But in the end, you'll see that the property actually doesn't win this analysis. And if we had to apply taxes on it, it will be further back compared to an investment. Payprop.co.za has a very good rental income data for South Africa. And as you can see, I've got the January, February, and March figures for 2023. It's 3.9%, 4.6%, and 4%. So I'm going to take something in the middle, about 4.2% rental income demand. Please note that Joburg might be on a slower or a lower inflation or lower rental income increase. However, we would like to be quite balanced in this view and not punish the Joburg property more than a Western Cape property, for example. How are we going to determine the property growth going forward? I'm going to use the Lightstone database. This database shows us property growth figures countrywide. And as you can see, I've highlighted the property growth figures for the appropriate categories. The luxury band shows a 2.4% growth increase. The non-coastal band, in other words, properties that are inland, 1.7% increase in value. The City of Johannesburg band, minus 1.1%. That's one of the worst in the country, but we have to use these figures. Then Gauteng band, 0.2% growth figure. So if we combine all of this and we divide it by 4, we get to a figure of 0.8% growth per annum. Now, 0.8% growth per annum sounds bad, but those are the statistics. And what I usually do is I use a 1% maintenance deduction per annum to reduce the growth rate. In other words, because we don't have maintenance figures, add 1% of the property value per annum for maintenance and all kinds of unplanned events, or maybe a loss of rental income. So in this case, we'll give benefit of the doubt to the property and keep it on 0.8% growth per annum. So this screen shows you the property side of the calculation in detail. It shows you from month 1 on the left to month 24. Obviously, I've got 20 years or 240 months of this calculation, but I'm just going to show you this out of simplicity. On the left, we have every month, then the date, which is the first of every month after that. The bond payment, as you can see, the bond payment remains the same, but your rent increases. Here's your rental income. 14,000 a month after 1 year, 14,588. And remember, guys, this is assuming you don't get a loss of rental income. In other words, you use 1 month to repaint the property to get another tenant in and so forth. So we assume the rental income is steady. And then, as you can see, here's the rates and taxes, 4,500. After month 13, here you can see after the gray line, each gray line across shows a full year. In other words, month 12 there and month 24. So after 13 months, it's 4,770 for the all the costs and not just 4,500 anymore. Here's the accumulated cost that you've paid. monthly cash flow. This monthly cash flow is your total bond costs and other costs minus your rent. In other words, so this couple still pays 7,762 rand into the property every month because the rental income doesn't cover all the costs. As you can see, it reduces slightly in month 13 to 7,444. Accumulated monthly cash flow, as you can see, after 24 months, they've had to pay in 182,000 rand already into the property to cover the property bond and everything. Property value, here's the property value as it grows, and then on this blue line or this blue column, you can see that this will be the cash in hand at point of sale. In other words, how much cash will you have in your hands if you have to sell the property now? Now, as you can see, the cash in hand actually reduces over time. The reason for that is that the rental income still doesn't cover costs and you have to pay in every single month. Now, we have to do that to compare it to an investment because this is money that flows out of your pocket that you could have invested elsewhere. So it's a huge opportunity cost that happens to you. I'm going to show the break-even point now, where the break-even happens. So I've just checked on my calculator, which I'm not going to show on the screen, but on month 135 is the day where you actually start breaking even. In other words, where the property rental income and positive cash flow has outweighed the negative cash flow over time. And if you have to sell your property at that stage with a growth rate, you will actually have cash in your pocket, theoretically. That's quite a long way. A property is not as easy as it sounds. You don't just buy a property and then your rent covers all your expenses. This is a misconception I find with a lot of people, thinking that property is a very easy way to make money. So if you look at the investment case, the investment will be for 20 years and the initial investment amount is 157,776 and at an expected growth rate of 10% pre-tax. So we'll still deduct taxes after that 10%, and to make it very realistic compared to the property. Now, where do we get the 157,776 from? Where we got that from is from the actual property value, estimated value, 2.15 million, if you remember, and then minus the outstanding bond amount. So if you have to sell the property now, how much cash will be on hand? Remember, I need to tell these people if they have to sell the property, what will be a better case if you look at it 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, or 10 years from now, what will be the better scenario for them, and I have to use these assumptions. Here you can see the investment case, the actual data on the investment side. So as you can see, the deposit will be 157,776, and then here's your first year's growth. It's 15,777.60, 10% of that, and as the balance increases here, it adds 10%. In other words, there's 10% compounded growth added every year, and then the balance increases, as you can see. In year 18, for example, you make 79,747 growth, and then your balance is 877,221. I'll show you what it looks like after tax. On the left-hand side, I'm showing you the cash in hand on the property per year. So that's a condensed version of the earlier detailed property calculation that I've shown you. After 12 years, you can see if you sell your property, you're going to be cash flow positive. In other words, you've made up all those years of money that you had to pay into the property and you've made it back up, and you can sell your property and the difference in your property value from what you bought it for, or initial value, and now also makes up for those losses. Then on the right, we have the taxes against the property. So your income tax accumulated, we haven't used that in this case. We're going to use a 0% tax just for the calculation. Then a CGT tax on sale. In other words, if you have to sell the property, what will be the capital gains tax that will be deducted? And here's the total income tax. In other words, these two combined on this side, which gets deducted from this. On the investment side, on the right here, you can see the taxes that will be paid, considering if you have to sell it after 17 years or after 10 years. But each figure here on a yearly basis, and then the tax after the amount after a tax that you will get out. In other words, the investment cash in hand that you will receive. So this is comparative to the pre-tax property minus the tax here. This is what the investment looks like. And I'll show you the proper figures comparatively at the end. So here's the final verdict. If you look on the left-hand side, you can see each year and then the property cash in hand after rental income tax and CGT, in other words, after all taxes. And if you run it down to year number 20, you'll see that it gives you a 753,000 Rand in your pocket. And then the investing cash in hand after tax is the third column there. It shows you 952,000 Rand after tax. Now, the 20-year figure difference is 199,000 Rand. So the difference in this case is not that much. However, a property requires a lot of your attention as well. That doesn't get taken into consideration. You have to use your time. You have to meet with tenants or have an agent that meets with tenants. You have to sometimes go on weekends where you could have done something else. You have to repaint the property or get someone to repaint the property. All of these things are not considered in this. As you can see in the middle stages of the figures, like year 11, 10, there's the most losses that's going to be made. There's a 464,000 Rand where the investment is going to be much more than the property. And the reason for that is, for the first couple of years, this specific property, the rental income doesn't match the cost or the expenses, the bond plus all the expenses. So you have to take your own money, instead of investing it or use it on whatever else you want to use it on, you have to put it into this property on a monthly basis. And only later does the break-even point get reached, and then it starts getting money back. So in my opinion, I wouldn't go for the property further. I wouldn't keep this property. Another risk I forgot to mention when it comes to property is the municipal mismanagement. In other words, the government is not always managing our municipalities as we want it to be managed, and this means we have to take on more costs ourselves. And even some estates, for example, have had to use private refuse removals and private security, obviously, which has to increase as crime increases. And these things cost money, and it pushes up your levies and even your rates and taxes. I've done a recent calculation where a property in a certain municipality in KZN has more than 12% annual increases on their rates and taxes over the last 4 years. And hopefully it will come down going forward, but yeah, 12% is quite heavy. So if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. Like the video, click on the subscribe button, share it with people. Please get it out there, open people's minds on property and help them make the right decision. As a last quick bonus, what I'm going to do, I'm going to take the same calculation. I'm going to quickly change two figures. I'm going to change the property growth rate from 0.8 to 1.6. So I'm going to double it. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put on taxes on the rental income.